Yeah, we're back, folks. It is episode 5 of D9 Football Focus. Duber and Justin Benkowski. And on this episode, we're going to be covering Otto-Eldred, Brockway, Bradford, and the Punxsutawney Chucks. As always, my co-host, Justin, you're ready to roll, buddy. We're both getting a little fired up here.
Always ready to roll, man. It's almost week 1, like we talked about. Going to continue to talk about these guys that we're going to mention. You know, some of them have been at their posts for a long time, and some are just kind of trying to build something. So we're going to get a variety here with the coaches you mentioned and the programs you mentioned. But again, there's nothing short of crazy high class character that these guys are exuding, trying to build with what they're trying to do off the field, in the hallways, between their schools if they have a co-op. However, talk about really solid human beings, these 4 guys that are, these head coaches. And I'm a little bit biased with Otto-Eldred because, Coach Brian Neal, he was our former line coach when we got things rolling in Port. So, dude, I'm ready for this episode. It's going to be fun.
All right. And by the way, my cat Joy is sitting here, and every time you talk, she's looking at me like, who is that? So that just adds to the ambiance here in Studio B. Let's get into it with the Terrors. Let's go, buddy. What's going on up there?
Oh, man, there's a lot of good things going on. I visited their practice. Head coach Brian Neal, first year, he was their OC last year. He's a guy I've known now for 20 plus years. He was a stud lineman for the Gators when I first came on board. But he wants to, right now, I'd tell you this, dude, most of what he's going on over there is just trying to set a standard.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make sure that the guy behind you, the guy in front of you, the guy next to you is doing what they're supposed to do. He is one of, and I've been around a lot of great coaches, and we've talked about a lot of great coaches on this program, but he's one of the best tactician teachers of the offense and defensive line, from every step, every hip movement, every hand placement. And he's taught a lot of guys in our program at Port Allegheny, which are now going out there to the world. And we'll talk about those guys as we continue through the program. But sure, he just wants to make sure he's continuing to stress to those guys that as coaches and as players, we got to be better.
Yeah.
Every day. We talked about it with players and making new mistakes and fixing them. But, Coach Neal talked about, that simple fact of we got to keep being better versions of ourselves. We cannot, continue to make an excuse. We cannot continue to find a way or find a reason to be wrong. And Coach Neal, man, I'm telling you what, he is so attention to detail. There's no stone left unturned. And what they're trying to do over there, I believe they are in Region 4 as well. And it's not necessarily about 2026.
Yeah.
It's about the program.
Sure. And it's a deal. I'm going to flash back with a little history here, because in 93, we got to do, myself and Barry, we got to do their first light up night when Kane was over there. And that was when Boyd was coaching. I got to tell you, I think they come back and beat the Wolves, but that was the first night of lights over there. Oh my God, you'd swear it was the world, one of those World's Fairs. What an atmosphere that was. What was it like going to Duke Center?
Oh my God, I'm so, honest to God, people do, but I did not rearrange this. He did not ask this question. I'm so glad you asked that, because knowing, Boyd Fitzsimmons and Timmy Burris, the late, great Chad Ewings, God rest his soul, Nick Labella, all those guys that are associated with Otto-Eldred football, it is something special. They might not have 8-2, 9-0, whatever it is.
Yeah. But,
man, talk about a supportive community. And Coach Neal Bryce made that very well known. He understands that there's an accountability to show up.
Yeah.
He doesn't you don't take a magic pill. You don't have a magic potion that you drop on your finger and you're just this magic, better version of yourself. You got to work for it.
Yeah.
We want to be accountable to each other, like we talked about. We want to do it together. That's what makes it enjoyable. When you're able to do it together and never be satisfied with some of the comments that Coach talked about, but just continue to grow and continue to be better versions of what you were. representing the Terrors, because, like I said, those names I mentioned are some of the best humans I've ever met. Right. And, it's great for Otto-Eldred to have such an impactful leader. And they have, Coach Trent Neal. They got Coach Bryant Trinetti, a Hub, former Hub. Coach Trent Neal, a former Gator. Coach Josh Saltzman, a former Gator. So there's some, those guys are doing a phenomenal job among the other guys they have. And Bry knows it's step by step, it's day by day.
Yeah, for me, it was always like when I look at Otto-Eldred, they always had a mix of, some big kids, but they always had these finesse kids, and it's just a matter of getting them rolling. And, I always just respected that program for that. And it just sounds like, you're as excited as I am to see Brian up there and see what the Terror is good. So we got a pretty positive vibe up there, yeah?
Very positive, yeah. And he just, watching him show up, watching him understand how it works and what it takes, and he helped build. Let's make no mistake about it. Coach Brian Neal was on the ground level with myself and other coaches, most of which are still leading Port Allegheny, on the ground level with us trying to build what we built. And a lot of whiteboard time and a lot of, what about this, what about that, I don't like this, I don't like that. But Bry's what's right for kids. And if you want, I don't know that I've ever met a coach or coached with a coach that was able to build relationships like he is. I have a couple pictures. One I'm looking at in my basement right now. Pate Styles, Aiden Bliss, both rushed for 1,000+ yards. First time in school history. Bry's the line coach. Blaine Moses rushed for 500 yards, whatever it was in a game one time, led by Bry's lineman. Yeah. And I've said this in previous interviews. The way Bry communicates, he can tell you need to get your crap together and I'm not happy without really raising his voice, and those guys respond. So with what he's got building over there with the guys he's doing it with and how he works with kids and the support, administration, school board, community, I hope Otto-Eldred can do some damage.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Let's go down the road here a little bit to our buddy Jake Heigl and the Brockway Rovers. Again, just a super place to play a ball game in. And it's kind of the center of the district. What's Jake thinking?
Jake Heigl, my man. Great near and dear friend of mine. He is very standard-oriented, dude. In Brockway, he made it very clear what the community expects. The biggest thing is he wants his guys not to plateau too early.
Yeah.
We don't want to be plateauing until we're trying to win medals. But he's crazy optimistic and confident on their year. They're Class A by enrollment. They have been Class 2A by enrollment, but they bumped up. They're Class A by enrollment. And Jake talked about it. The standard is a District 9 title. That's what they are playing for.
Sure.
And there's some teams that, and some of the things I'll talk about later on here tonight is what he and the program do. But Brockway, Jake, man, he's a hell of a salesman for this community of Brockway.
Yeah.
I give him mad props for that. But again, yes, it's District 9 title. Yes, it's wrapping another medal. They're two-time. They want to go for 3 in a row. And I think they have a really good opportunity to put themselves in that conversation. But he also understands that what they have going on, and, he does a very commendable job with the culture. And I asked these guys, all of them, one of the questions, I guess the thing that stumped all these guys the most was, and I'll read it right off my card, what do you do in your program that separates your team from just any other team? Everybody puts their pads on and everybody runs out of the tunnel and everybody gets cheered for. But what do you do in your program? And Brockway, they are very proud of their program, just as Port Allegheny is, just as Smethport is, just as all these things are, man. Dude, these towns are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal. But, biggest thing, Jake wants to make sure that he and his staff celebrate the dirty work. Brockway has been known probably since, the late 2000s, single digits, right up to the 2000 teens when, Port and Brockway, we battled a lot. They've always kind of been known as their spread. You had Derek Boganza and you had Kyle Braun and you had Alex Schaefer-Doan and all those guys, right? And they're a hard-nosed group of guys.
Yeah.
They did not have a lot of linemen last year. He was very proud of the 5 linemen they had that started the season and finished the season. So much positive going down in Brockway, man. I think a lot of people better be aware of the Rovers.
Yeah, it was, I don't know how to say this, and I don't want it to be construed the wrong way, but they exude confidence, which some people maybe take as cockiness, but I realized watching that team play, it's that confidence, and that starts with the head coach.
Yeah, Jake is confident. He is, I've been to clinics and hotels and, nitty-gritty sessions with him, arguments, Jake questions everything. If you tell him the grass is green, he's going to go check. And that's just kind of his attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the coaches he has working with him are, and I have this written down, details need to be taken care of. Like, Jake is the biggest proponent of just doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, I will say this, a little side note. I'm sure when Jake listens to this, he'll love it. But his staff, as long as he's been in charge, has never beat the Gators.
Huh?
So big week 4 showdown at Brockway between the Gators. But talk about those two groups. We've known each other forever as staffs. They are very, emblematic of what we're all trying to do. But, Jake has a lot of people that do a lot of things right in community support and the history of it all. He's another program that does his best to teach these guys. We talked about Coach Yingling talking about Coach DeFilippi and all his stuff. Well, Brockway football, Coach Ray Reckner is somebody that we all have heard of if you know what District 9 football, especially KSAC. So Jake and Brockway, look out. And like I said, dude, I'm going to head down to Knox on week 1. Keystone hosts Brockway. So,
ooh, yeah.
We'll have some stuff to talk about there. So,
yeah,
good things happening in Brockway. So much pride going on, man. And you're not going to find a more D9 proponent staff in school than Brockway.
Yeah, and again, folks, even if your team isn't playing and you get a chance to catch a game down at that facility, please. Let's move up in classes a little bit, and let's go up to Bradford. And what are the Owls thinking?
Owls got a new look, up in 4A. They're still consistent with that. But Coach Troy Cook, who took the year off last year in terms of a varsity level, I think he told me he was a helper out volunteer guy at the Frets, which is Bradford's middle school.
Sure.
Troy is, I can tell you this, man, I competed against him, at Otto-Eldred for a number of years. Yeah. He's a Smethport grad by nature, but he's an Otto-Eldred guy probably for a decade plus. If you want your son to play football for somebody that's going to treat you right, Troy Cook is the man. Troy Cook is a class act dude. He's got Sean Rounsville, some Otto-Eldred blood coming over there with him. One of the questions I talked about is what's going to define success, and I guarantee you, and one of those question marks is having a good time. I guarantee you Troy and Sean and those guys will have a good time.
Yeah.
I really do. But one of the biggest focuses that Troy talked about, Coach Cook talked about, was getting back to basics. Mm-hmm. In blocking, tackling. As a coach, I always talk about alignment, assignment, execution. As a coach, I can impact alignment where you're at. Are you supposed to line up on the guard? A lot of times you'll hear parents or people in the crowd yell, why is there this big gap? Well, alignment is important.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just miscommunication, whether that's coach to player, player to player, and an assignment. Do you know where you're going? Mm-hmm. So Coach Cook talked about those are two things that the coaches can control. And then execution being step 3, they're going to coach them up on how to do it. And again, very basics oriented. And I will say this, they have an addition to their staff this year. He's come out of a little bit of a coaching, maybe we'll call it a hiatus. They got Coach Jim Berlin, former Smethport. When we talk about the history of Smethport, man, that dude is a pain in my behind. And just, one of the best guys I've ever met at reading guards and, maybe not the most physical guy in the world, even though he was, but he's so smart. He's coaching their defense, and his experience coaching Smethport, those guys are going to be moving all over the place. But things are different in Bradford. It's new.
Yeah. And, it's a thing, too. I give Troy a lot of credit. It just seems like that's almost a pressure job a little bit because they are so hungry up there for good football, Justin.
Yeah, and when I talked to Troy, he mentioned, with that stress and that, emphasis on success that we have been missing a little bit, he just wants to see consistent improvement. And I think where they're at this year from a coaching perspective, if I was an athletic director, if I was an administrator, this dude, Coach Troy Cook, Coach Sean Rounsdale, Coach Jim Berlin, are going to demand the heck out of these kids. But I guarantee you they're going to have their arms around them, and I guarantee you these kids are going to be treated right. And with that sets and builds, because it's important, That doesn't mean they're going to condone bad mistakes. That doesn't mean they're going to poo-poo, crazy behavior. That just means, bust your butt. When you come off the field, man, leave it all out there. I love you. We love each other. And know that, we're going to live to fight another day together, because that's one thing Coach Cook talked about. It's with a new staff, how are we going to define success? It's going to be continuing to improve, because these guys are builders. They're good people, and good people deserve success. And we'll see what Bradford has in the future. But this year, I think it's a matter of just kind of try to put a good product on the field and grow.
Yeah, boy, you just touched something that just got me thinking that, that relationship. And again, I feel sometimes like maybe I'm just blasting out of the side of my mouth about things, but there's some kids that have some rough lives at home, and things aren't always great. And when you can get that from a coach, again, I'm getting almost mushy thinking that, dang, that just makes a kid feel wanted, feel appreciated. And when you can give back to that coach giving to you, that's just, man, that's special, dude.
And I'll tell you this, dude, as a coach, you think, they're giving, I'm giving a lot to them, but they don't even have a clue what they're giving back to you.
Yeah.
And the phrase I probably used with some administrators of mine over the years, like, those kids, let's just use your name, dude. Bob Prana needs football, needs wrestling, needs basketball, needs soccer, needs whatever, more than that sport needs him or her.
Right.
And when you provide, I talk to colleagues and coaches all the time, and I will tell you this, man, if you have a kid in District 9 that wants to know that they belong, if they're willing to put in the effort and be constructively criticized and have a lot of fun and wear that jersey in the hallway, there's a lot of schools and programs in District 9 that I've literally talked to firsthand that have a ton to offer these kids. And, I look forward here to talking about Brandon, because Punxsy's got it going on.
Yeah, and we're going to get to Punxsy, and I got to tell you, it does the heart good to see a resurgence down there. And that game last year, I think it was with St. Mary's, the district game, man. That was something else, and they got to be feeling pretty good, the Chucks, my friend.
Brandon Snyder, I met him last year at the District 9 banquet over at the Dam Inn.
Yeah.
Don Lee Wenner, phenomenal job over there at the Dam Inn, as well as the Ram. There's our shout out there, right, Bub?
You got it.
But no, for real, Coach Snyder, very humble dude. He made no mistake. They lost, as we'll get into later in the week. They lost what we were going to call some dudes.
Yeah.
So they are. He admitted real quick they need to grow up fast. They're inexperienced all over the place. But I will say, as we've talked about with other programs, very junior heavy. He talked about tons of 11th graders that are important, and he is a program builder guy. Talking to him, I talk about, you've all dealt with coaches in the media before that didn't want to help you whatsoever. I'll say this to anybody listening: if you need any help from Brandon Snyder at Punxsutawney, he is going to do anything he can to help you. Because talk about a dude that just understands how it is. He understands. We talked about making the same mistake. I don't care if you make a mistake. Just make sure it's a new one.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Coach Snyder does for a day job, but I'd want him to coach my kid. He understands what it's all about, man. I don't believe he's very tenured in terms of longevity, but what he talked about, I told him this straight up, dude. What he talked about with me this morning, was I was having chills writing down what he talked about, like making everything a memory for these kids.
Wow. Yeah.
And I asked them about, what the questions is defining success. And obviously they want to win a D9 title. And I have mad respect for those coaches that say that.
Sure.
And every one of those coaches that say that, I want to make sure the public out there understands, yes, that's an objective and that's a goal that you write on your mirror and your whiteboard. but that's 27th place for what these guys do, man. And Brandon Snyder at Punxsutawney, talking about the heartbreak that they had when it was over, reiterating to his kids to make every moment memorable. Again, to repeat what I told Coach Snyder this morning, dude, I'm getting chills as I write this down in my notes. And that kind of was 14, 15 District 9 schools, dude, that we've talked to and I've talked to, and they do it right. They are in it for the right reasons. Anybody out there that is listening, you want to be a part of something, find a way for your child to be a part of one of these programs because they're doing it right, and I'm really proud to be a small part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. And again, it's kind of a cool deal down in Punxsutawney, and that's a big deal on Friday nights. And again, you know, with a coach building that program, that's kind of what we're here for too, Justin, just to spread this positivity.
It's everywhere, man. I'm telling you. And I know that, and we're fortunate. Most schools, I talked to one school that may have had a shoulder injury, but other than that, most schools got out healthy, knock on wood. Bumps and bruises that come with football. But, again, I can't wait till you've seen some back to school nights and you've seen some meet the team nights. And these kids, tomorrow's Tuesday, like we talked about earlier. Tomorrow and Wednesday are huge practice days for whomever your week one opponent is. And these guys they're ready. These coaches are ready for football, man. But it's not like they don't make or break their day by that 2-hour practice.
Yeah.
They're ready for practice and they instruct their drills, and I talk to them. I see them everywhere. But when it's a water break or it's, they're screwing up a rep of a drill, they're putting their arm around them, they're talking to them, in some cases talking about hunting, in some cases talking about other sports, in some cases talking about a crappy situation at home. Dude, District 9, players and coaches in their communities make it really fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it, and I'm getting to see it some more, and I'm looking forward to the seeing more of it.
Yeah, and I just can't imagine being a head coach and getting ready like a bird. You come out of that tunnel where you come from, wherever, and just that buzz you got to feel as you lead that team out on the field.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. There's two places that you just meant. One place you mentioned in terms of Johnsburg and that tunnel. God, what a great atmosphere to come out of. I can remember sitting along as a kid. But in Port Allegheny, for me to stand at the top, and I can't wait for Coach Phil Hart to experience that, to stand at the top of the track and, ready, set, go, here you go. And whatever each school has, whether that's, and one thing we've noticed over the years is the pride in our country and, the USA flags and the school flags. And, but I've noticed over the years, these teams will beat the snot out of each other within the rules of the game. Yeah. They will knock each other's heads off within the rules of the game, and that's a phrase we've used in Port. But, man, I know with coaches and I know with players, 99.5 times out of 100, it's mad respect for the other squad and the other community, and we live to fight another day. And when somebody needs each other, they're there. And that's what we're at with District 9, man, and that's where I hope you and I can continue to stress that.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's going to wrap up. Dang, this was episode 5. And we'll be back with some more here, folks. And Justin, as always, I'm getting thrilled Friday night to have 6, 7 TVs going, a couple computers going, and catching all the action. And folks can tune into Duber's Place and see those streams and check our live scoreboard update, which we're going to look to do every 10 minutes, my friend.
I wish all these coaches and these athletes in all the sports, I wish them nothing but health. Have a blast. Represent your school. Represent your families. Make sure that you are experiencing everything you can experience. And Duber and I are going to try to blast it out there as much as we can. I believe, Duber, I don't want to speak for you, but we shall be talking to the public here before Friday.
Yes, we will. And we're getting excited about that. That wraps up episode 4. It's time for you to do your line.
Oh, nothing but love for District 9.
And as I like to say, remember, folks, be kind and do your best to make a difference.